Hi, everyone. My name is Francesco, here with our CEO, Steve Scheinkoff. Today, we have a webinar for you, kitchen renovation mistakes to avoid. Don't worry about feeling the need to take notes. We're going to be sharing and recording this presentation to everybody here later on. Use our live Q&A as well to send in any questions you have. And as well, visit our YouTube channels. We have a lot of great previous webinars that will help you in your journey here on renovations or appliance shop and anything that you find there too. So with that, I'll kick it off to Steve.
All right, thanks, Fran. Kitchen renovation mistakes to avoid, a lot to cover, so let's start. As I said in the introductory video, I'm uniquely, unfortunately qualified to give this. I've been involved in 10 renovations, not including the ongoing renovation, that's the Boston store, in just 10 years. And I wish I'm going to give you a framework that I wish I had followed. And I can tell you from experience, this first one, this is a warehouse we just built last year. And I know a lot of you are not building warehouses, but this was $10 million over budget, lawsuits going both ways, or from my way anyway. And at the time that we were having problems with developers, interest rates went from 2 to 7%. So you can imagine how that is. And, warehouses shouldn't be that hard. It's just a box to put stuff in. But when you follow the framework, things can go well too. I mean, this is our Hanover store. We bought this back in 2019, and unbeknownst to us, this was rotted. So what the contractor did, and he's now the director of our facilities, is he ripped these down. That's why the store looks like this, right? Very challenging on the inside. This is what the place looked like before we took over, and this is what it looks like now. And it could be, that experience could be good. So we're going to be talking about contractors as well. On my own side, in 2014, I rebuilt my condominium here in the South End, and we did it look good. I mean, I really love this place, except the contractor had, again, some issues and ended up paying over $70,000 extra to get the porch that I paid for done. I had the slider doors and no porch, so I could have taken, I could have taken a third floor to first floor dive pretty quick. And this is where I live now. 2 years later, I had to move across the street, and this is the basement where I live now in the 4-floor brown store that I bought. And we're going to get into lifestyle and how you make decisions as well. By the way, those lights are going to be changed out. They haven't worked in a few years, so we're going to talk about bad products as well. Now, if I had to give you an idea of what renovation is going to be like in the last 5 years, from 2020 to 2022, if you wanted a Sub-Zero, a Bosch, a Thermador, even a Miele dishwasher, you can get one in about a year. A lot of supply chain issues. But then, the interest rates were pretty cheap. In 2022 to 2024, now we have a glut of inventory because everyone overproduced. There's no more demand because everyone was traveling. But now we got high interest rates. In 2025, we could possibly have the worst of both worlds, where with tariffs and possible trade wars, a lot of these parts come from China. And unfortunately, you can't build a dishwasher if you're missing 5 out of the 27 parts it takes to build one. So now we have high interest rates, possible supply chain issues. So here's what we're going to learn. We're going to mitigate all that. This is all the stuff we're going to be covering. You don't have to write it down because we're going to send it to you. First and foremost, hiring the wrong people. And I know this better than anybody. Great subcontractors, great contractors, great subcontractors, plumbers, electricians, everything else. The bad ones seem to cause the issues, right? So what we want to do, or what I want you to do first, is to ask good questions. Now, I drive my daughter to school a couple days a week, and I go through my old neighborhoods in Needham, and now everything's a modern farmhouse, kind of like our Hanover store is now. So if you're looking to build a modern farmhouse, you find the builders of modern farmhouses, you ask them about the process, but then you go the next step of getting recommendations from their customers and from the subcontractors. And why the subs? You want to find out if they've been paid and what that process looks like. Because a lot of GCs will burn through subcontractors. These are the questions I asked the GC in Hanover to come up with. I'm going to be sending these to you, but if you want to put them through ChatGPT, these are the top 20 questions to ask a contractor. Between the two lists, again, what we're going to do is, have they done it? What's their process? And do they have recommendations? You want referrals. And that's the process. You get this done right, this is 70% of your problems disappear. Now, for those of you that are working with bigger GCs, you have to follow the same project, the same process with the PMs, the project managers. Project managers should have intimate knowledge of trades, plumbing, electrical, roofing, foundations, right? Because you don't want a great GC and a PM that's just starting, right? That's the quarterback. You want the project to move forward, and the PM is the person that's going to do that. So GC, PM, we're gonna find out what they know and if they can build what it is you want done. However, the best GC can't help you if you don't know what to pick. I love this picture. I mean, are we on the beach or are we in Boston? And we got factory style lighting. But the one thing is they've spent some serious money here. Those two appliances in the background, they're about $36,000 combined, right? So what is your lifestyle? Someone gives you a blank paper, how are you going to fill it, right? Now, let me give you my life, right? I redid my apartment in 2014, and it was 5th floor walk up. I loved it. And less than 3 years later, I moved across the street and put the kitchen in the basement. And there's a reason for that, because my lifestyle profoundly changed in 2016.
My name is Steve.
My name is Steve. Very good. So having Sophia and walking her up to the 5th floor of the kitchen, just say I had bundles, then you got to bring the child up to the 5th floor, bring the bundles to the 1st, and then hunt for the parking spot in the south end. So when I moved across the street, I put the kitchen in the basement very deliberately, because I could bring her in, put her on the sofa, and then bring the bundles in without walking up even one flight of stairs. But what about you? I mean, some of the things, especially about kitchens and baths, they're the toughest because you get task lighting, and we're going to talk about lighting later here. How do you cook? Multiple cooks? Better yet, where are your windows? What are you trying to highlight? Those are all the questions to ask, right? And then I put that through ChatGPT for your top 10 with kind of some funky paragraphs behind it that I edited. But really get your lifestyle down, because if you delay, the best contractor can't help you, which goes into my next one, thinking you have time, and you don't. And you may have, if your construction's later in the year and there's a trade war happening, you really don't. Now interest rates are 7%, not 2%, right? So I have some advice based on the 2 times I picked stuff for my condo and house, right? Is these are all the decisions you think you have to make. And I don't remember half these decisions. Now, I'm not saying if you want a white subway tile, gray counters, white cabinets, they should go brown, beige. I'm saying that don't be brand loyal and lock yourself into one choice. There's many different kinds of subway tile. There's many kinds of veins in the granite cabinet. Pick a few options that you can live with, that you can get sooner, especially if we're doing this at the end of the year and you're going to get the phone call, you need to buy this now, or you got to wait 6 months, because that can really delay your construction, right? And to give you an idea, I mean, I spent a lot of time picking the bath vessels in the bathtub. I don't even remember why. And this is the rainfall shower head I still haven't taken a shower under. So a lot of this stuff becomes noise after the fact. So try not to work yourself up over 1 or 2 different kinds of choices, because if you get it wrong and you have to wait, and the plumber and the electrician, which are hard to come by, going to the next job, it could take weeks or months to get them back. And that will put a serious crimp on your job, right? Okay. We're going in the kitchen, not understanding cabinets and underpaying for cabinet designers, I think is a big mistake. Now, if we take a look at this kitchen, this is probably $200,000-$300,000. Why? Because that stove is a La Cornue behind, And that's a custom stove. It's like 71 inches. There's no cabinets that are made to fit a 71-inch stove. So you've got to make them as a custom. But if you're on this call, you really don't have to do that in most cases. If you get a French range, I understand. But if you're on this call, I'm willing to bet that your refrigerator is 36-inch, not it's 42 and 48, which are all standard cabinet sizes, right? Your stove is probably 30-inch or 36 or 48 or 60, all standard. Dishwashers are all 24 inches, right? So the more that you can, if you want to make this less expensive, the more that you can go to, say, stock, where you're not customizing, but you're still getting a good cabinet, good finish, the less expensive it becomes. I wouldn't do RTA. Most of the ones I've seen really aren't going to last in the long term. Again, semi-custom or custom, something like that. I'm sorry, semi-custom or custom are going to cost a lot more. So, and then your cabinet design. I've got a small kitchen and I've never wanted for space because she sat me down, figured out how I was going to use it, and then accommodated certain things I never would have thought of, like pot top shelves. You put the pot tops in the shelves so you can stack the pots. You have that much space. I never would have thought of that. And then you can go custom if you want. You're looking at probably $250,000 worth of appliances and cabinets. All right, placing your stove in the middle of your island, you only should do in certain circumstances. This is one of those circumstances you shouldn't do. This is a stove without ventilation. Now, what happens if you use your stove? Well, first of all, most cooktops, that's a Gen Air cooktop, are 2.5 times the output my mom's had back when I was growing up. So you get a lot of smoke, grease, odor. I mean, the nice windows they put on the top, they're going to get grimy fast. But you're also getting certain compounds, as it turns out, nitrogen oxide, formaldehyde, carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide. That's stuff you want outside your house. So if you're going to put a stovetop because you like to entertain your guests, like these people, this is an hibachi restaurant. That's my kid's second favorite. The Fuji Steakhouse in Needham is our second favorite restaurant, right? But if you take a look at what they do, they entertain when they cook. Look overhead. You always have a hood over your cooktop surface, right? So that's what you want to do. Something like this I put in there because I can't understand what they did. If you're going to put a hood over a cooktop, it should extend 3 inches out from the cooktop. This one doesn't, because you want the right amount of capture of what you put underneath it. They put a downdraft, which we'll get to in a second. Those don't work all that well. And that hood could have been placed a little bit differently. So really what I'm going to say is if someone gives you a blank piece of paper, let's start at the sink. By centralizing, you never move that far in your kitchen. It's the place where you go to the most. When you go home tonight, you'll realize you're at your sink the most. It's the easiest to complete the kitchen triangle that we'll talk about in a second. And if you need an entertainment sink, you can get one of those. But here's why you want to start with the sink. You don't need to vent your sink. It's the most used appliance, and you get the better lighting opportunities. We're going to talk about lighting at the end of the presentation, right? You know, when you go to a house and you see ideas, you see beautiful lights, there's always a sink underneath it, not a cooktop, right? Now, how you lay out your kitchen. I know this is not a renovation mistake, depending on a webinar. The gentleman on the right is a really prominent kitchen designer out of Canada, and him and I have two different philosophies on how to lay out a kitchen. I know this isn't a mistake, but this will really help. I think of the kitchen triangle, which is cooktop near the sink on the island with cooktop behind us. You're never moving more than 1 or 2 feet, and then the dishwasher. That's the kitchen triangle. Those are the 3 most used appliances in your kitchen. He talks about, and a lot of new cabinet designers talk about the zones of influence, saying, forget about that. If you're using your refrigeration more, if you don't use your cooktop as much, he wants to talk to you and then centralize the stuff that you use, and he calls it zone of usage. Now, if that's confusing, stick with the kitchen triangle. I've renovated, my sister's renovated, and it seems to work. But those are your 2 philosophies. Mistake number 6 is not understanding ventilation. And this is a big problem because most of the stuff you buy in an appliance store, including the venerable over-the-range microwave, can't vent stoves. Like if we took a look at the side angle, that's a cafe double oven. It's got a 21,000 B2 burner on the top right, 17,000 on the left, and a 19,000 B2 griddle in the middle. Those are at roughly 22 inches off the wall. The over-the-range microwave is only 350 CFM. We'll talk about CFMs in a second. And it's only 16 inches off the wall. So all that stuff is going to remain in your kitchen. All that unhealthy stuff I talked about in the first time. So really what you want to do is understand venting. Now CFM is a term that gets bandied about. That's the amount of cubes per minute that flow through a hood. So 600 CFM means 600 cubes. Capture is what everyone gets wrong. If you're cooking on the front burners, your front burners are 22, 23 inches. So the hood should be that if you cook a lot. Duct size, you want to follow the specifications, not make it a minimum. And then the duct run is either straight up or straight out, as short as possible, right? So that brings us to downdrafting. And you see this in pro ranges and other high volume surfaces. And I understand, I mean, we look at the picture, they're trying to look at their windows. But if we're saying you need capture area, there's no capture to a downdraft. If we're saying that the vent run's got to be straight up and straight back, then sending it down through a transition or an elbow, right, through a longer run reduces the static flow. Right, so downdrafts are a last resort option. If you have one, you need to replace one. I get it, because you don't have to redo your whole kitchen. The best advice I have for someone with poor vents or a downdraft is as simple as the same as opening windows when you cook, right? This is all the other stuff I just said. Now, for Massachusetts residents, we have makeup air laws, and you can't get a CO without having makeup air. What makeup air is anything over 400 CFM, you need a makeup air return of equal amount, right? So if your hood is 600 CFM, you need to recover that air. Now, why do you need to do that? Well, we throw CFMs out, but 1100 CFM, if you're putting over 48-inch pro range, that's 1100 cubes per minute, or 33,000 cubes. Now, what happens if you don't make up that air is it's not a vacuum. You're not going to asphyxiate in your own house, but you're going to make up the air from your garage, your attic, let's say your furnace. Unhealthy. So you want to make that up, and it's either through your HVAC system or a hole 10 feet away on the opposite side of your stove to comply with the regulations. I can't believe people still do this, but stacking wall ovens is a sign to me of poor kitchen design. Now, maybe because I have still a small child, but think of small. If you got boiling hot water, you don't reach up over your head and then have a small child tugging at your pants, right? Plus, there's so many places to put a microwave. You can put it under a cabinet, under a, you get the under drawer microwaves. You can put it on, build it through a cabinet in a small area. Same with steam ovens, I would say. The most I would go is single oven, warming drawer, maybe a microwave, or just straight double ovens and a warming drawer. You don't want to go 84 inches or 7 feet tall over your head. All right. Which one is better, Thermador, Miele, Sub-Zero, Wolf, or Viking? Well, the answer to that is depends on where you live, right? Where do you live? Because no matter what I sell, it's going to need to be serviced. This is where we were yesterday, right? So you have 130 service stops and 26 installations. That's a light day for us versus the 113 new appliance deliveries, right? Things break. This is just in the Boston area, and we don't even take outside customers anymore. So really what you want to do with appliances especially, but maybe HVAC and everything else is Google best service in your area. A lot of you are from different areas outside of Boston. We handle our own service here, but you're going to need it. These are just our service techs. This doesn't even include the call center. So really be mindful of understanding the service liability of anything you buy, especially in appliances. Okay, let's talk about lighting. be honest, we don't sell lighting anymore. We did for 95 years. But this is the single biggest missed opportunity of lighting a space well in kitchens and baths, right? When I started selling LED cans, they were $250 to $300 per can. People are overjoyed because of the energy efficiency component to it. However, that same recess can's $10, $15. There's really no excuse to not get this done well, right? And I'm going to take a kitchen I really love and show some of the missed opportunities. Now, better lighting there's 4 components. There's task lighting, which is predominantly recessed or track, and they put fixtures in, which is okay. Then you've got accent lighting, which is when you're highlighting things like their china in there. You could put some under cabinet lighting in there, right? And there's a lot of fixtures that can do accent and general illumination as well. And then you get ambient, which is uplighting, and decorative, which is the decorative pieces you see. And they did a really nice job with that, with the unfinished kind of lighting, with the stools in the front. But they could have done so much more, right? If there's something I could say to you is any key points now is pick your people right, pick your products right. Don't take a lot of time. Take as much time as you need, but not too much time. And LED tape, you can put this stuff anywhere, right? It's a really nice way to uplight. It can showcase the glasses there. You can put it underneath the island. You can put it in your toe kicks. Take a look at what this builder did. I think this is brilliant. They put it on the stairs because it's so cheap to do. And then you see the valance in the back. They put lighting in that as well. So one last thing about bathrooms. Let's go back to my bathroom. The one thing I do right. Most of the lights in the showers aren't working, but the one thing I did right is, and it's called cross illumination, right? Is having sconces on either side. So if you're shaving, putting makeup, you don't get any shadowing. A lot of people like putting lights over. I look at it on either side, 65 to 68 inches tall, or do what I did, just buy a big one and it'll cover everything. But really important by the mirror to shave and put makeup on, right? So that's it. Key takeaways is preparation and interview everyone and pick the right people. Don't make the mistake I made, because I'm going to be paying for this mistake, well, at my age, pretty much forever. Understand what you like, move fast, but not too fast, and understand the service behind the product. And with that, I'm going to send all the recording. Again, if you're doing something in the Boston area, you're kind of like tied up with picking contractors, and you want to shoot me an email, we'll include my email address in this, and I can certainly give you some recommendations of some of the contractors that have done great work in the 40 years I've been at Yale. So with that, you guys have got some great questions that we want to answer, and that's about it for the webinar.
Awesome. Thank you, Steve. Let's hop right into some of these questions. All right, first one we got from Patrick. It says, simply, what are your thoughts on steam ovens?
I have a steam oven and I love it. For the same reasons I don't use my microwave. Microwaves target moisture and dry everything up. Steam ovens make everything better than it is. It's just that simple. Adding steam is adding texture and flavor. You think of a roast and you're putting in an electric oven, I mean, you're drying out the roast. You're cooking in gas, you're getting some moisture, putting in a steam oven, and there aren't too many steam ovens that are good that can handle a whole roast, but you get the idea. You're going to get a much more flavorful piece of meat. Really, anything that you do in a steam oven is better. I recommend it. We have a chef on staff now, so we're going to be doing a lot of steam demos to get people comfortable. Buy a steam oven at Yale. He's going to teach you how to use it, because I really think that's just that's an appliance that you really need to consider going forward, if you want, obviously.
Absolutely. And I think what part of it too, it's like, it sounds intimidating, but these brands, and they've come so far in the last couple of years, from every brand, from LG to Miele to Wolf, so really all over the price spectrum, that make it so easy with the controls now that really walk you through a lot of this stuff. So it's definitely not intimidating. It's something that it's a little bit different style of cooking, but they make it so easy now.
Yeah, Wolf and Miele especially. I got a new Wolf, and if you want to reheat, you can reheat something crispy, humid, or just do regular reheat, and that controls the proportion of convection. But it's so easy, really. It's a great piece of technology, I think.
Awesome. So next question. This one is from Dennis. How do you think potential tariffs will impact availability?
Well, it depends. It depends whether they're going to have tariffs, because they were, and now there's a 30-day moratorium on it, I think.
Yeah.
But it depends. If we're talking about a full-scale war, we can't win a full-scale war. And the reason is because a lot of parts are made in other places and then shipped to us for assembly. Even that Sub-Zero refrigerator, which is mostly made in America, they get parts from other places. So if we're talking full-scale war, we got a big problem. If we're talking about tariffs, with the reciprocal tariffs, then we're talking about increased prices. Because if those parts cost more, it's going to cost more to build that thing, and then that thing is going to cost more to the consumer, right? So it really depends on what happens now. I mean, if you're talking about building a house now, and a lot of that wood comes from Canada, and they seem pretty upset. So that's going to increase the cost of that house big time. So it really depends whether a lot of this is posturing to tariffs to full-scale war. It really depends, but none of it is going to be good for the end consumer. But the good news is right now we're still in that glut of stuff, right, where everybody's overproduced. So for the short term, you should be fine. Long term, depends, but we could have big problems, both as a company, Yale, and as you guys as a consumer as well.
Yeah, definitely a lot of unknowns there still, unfortunately. Next one, this is from Dawn. So what is the most reliable induction cooktop?
Anything that Bosch makes.
Yeah.
That's the simple answer. I mean, Gaggenau, we didn't have a single repair on last year. I mean, I think Thermador and Bosch, I think, were below 2% repair in the first year.
Yeah, they make great cooktops too, really, with a lot of really great features with the flex zones, the heat shifts, and some other brands definitely to consider. I'd say even like at LG and their brands, it's like an SKS, a Studio does a nice job for sure too, at a similar price point or less depending on exact.
Well,
brand.
SKS is more expensive, but SKS is more powerful. It'll tell you the first content in your pans. I mean, that's the most featured induction cooktop other than the Thermador Freedom. I like that cooktop. We just started selling it, so I don't have the reliability numbers on it, but with LG it should be pretty good.
All right, next one's from Beth. When's the best time to buy appliances?
Well, we've been on Black Friday since 2023. So as it turns out, really anytime. There's a President's Day, typically the holidays, you might get a little bump up. So if we're here now in February, might be a good time. Certainly the tariffs paying attention to that. But if they don't, if all this just goes away and appliances just hum along like they have in 2022 to 2024, almost any day is a good day to buy appliances. But it's good to keep track of the holidays: Memorial Day, July 4th, tax weekend, Veterans, Black Friday. Those are all kind of good times, but they're not appreciably better times than in times past. I think. I mean, because everybody is so competitive. All the manufacturers are killing each other, so they've kept the promotions going on for over a year. So
yeah, even things like the mail-in rebates after the fact, like you're seeing a lot of those that, certainly you want to pay attention to those dates, but they are definitely kind of reloading those kind of as they go, just like they are with some of these promotional pricing. So yeah, we've been on promo for a while at this point.
Everybody has.
Yeah. So next one, what brands have price increases? This is from Sarah.
Well, Thermador and Bosch had a price increase, December 31st. Sub-Zero, Miele, Cove is that's a big one. March 1st.
March 1st, yep.
LG is the 15th?
Yeah, they had it. They already had it, January 11th.
I'm sorry, we missed that one. G is
So GE has not officially come out with a date, but they are saying it's coming. So they've kind of gone back and forth a little bit on the dates, but it is definitely coming. And I think, Steve, this speaks to kind of what we were talking about before with the tariffs. A lot of these manufacturers are kind of unsure, even if they've already had price increases, of what that could lead to in the future when and if that does happen.
But it's funny, what's really weird is they've had price increases, but they didn't stop the promotions.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the 1, 2 free in Thermador. I mean, they increased the pricing 7%, but they're giving you a free dishwasher, which is way more than 7%. So really unusual.
All right, this one's from Renee. What is the difference between a steam oven and a speed oven, and are there any that do both?
I don't know ones that do both, because that would be a microwave steam oven.
Yeah.
I will say that a speed oven is just that. It's a microwave with convection. So you're operating on a cycling of 90-10 for baking and 70-30 for roasting, where it's 90% convection, 10% 10% microwave, 70 roast, 30 microwave. So you're not getting that microwavy texture.
Mm-hmm.
But a steam oven is more quality of cooking than speed, right? Whereas the speed oven, you can cook fast and get decent texture, but you're not getting that next level flavor that you do with the steam oven. I know I'm kind of sounding like an apostle here, but really go to a steam demo and just taste the food. It's just a different level.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, this one's from Holly. What is the minimum space required between an island and a 36-inch refrigerator to open the door?
Funny, I don't remember. I thought we answered this last time.
Yeah, and really, I think the biggest issue comes with certainly those full-size, built-in, single-door refrigerators where, that door alone is 3 feet wide. And, then I always say, now think about how you open that door. When you're opening that door, you're really standing behind that as well. So you're adding another foot and a half there. You're typically not opening and kind of standing inside the door. So, really, I'd say you need about 4.5 to 5 feet or so, a minimum, to kind of have that opening be clear and not be obstructed by the island.
I got to vet these questions before you ask them to me better. But I'm thinking about what I did, and I've got a Sub-Zero integrated, so it's 24 inches. The door is 36, and my island, if you look at it, is it's probably about 4 feet. It's funny. Do I stand in front of the refrigerator? I don't think I do. I think mine's only 4 feet, but I've got a really kind of a small space.
Yep. Yeah, you definitely got to make do with the space you have. That's for sure.
Exactly. I've got a small space and a decent sized island. So, yeah. So you would figure 25 plus 36. If you get French doors, it's better because then you're cutting that down. Right, you're not getting the big swing door. It's not 36. It's probably 24.
Exactly.
Roughly?
Yeah. Or
so one way to mitigate it to a certain degree is getting a kind of like an integrated French door, like Thermador has it. Miele doesn't. Miele has it. Yeah, Miele has it as well.
Yep. So Monogram. Yeah.
That'd be Monogram. That'd be a good way to mitigate it. Is just get a integrated French door, and then you can. You can have less of a walkway between the two. But I can tell you right now, if I'm opening that door, 2 people aren't going by.
Yeah.
That much I can tell you.
All right. Next one's from Barbara. Looking for the best 32-inch refrigerator. So definitely, I'd say a little bit of a niche size there. Not as a ton of options there, but 32 specifically counter depth. Fisher Paykel makes some really great options there too, and a few different styles, single door, French door. So that's definitely one to look at. And now if you're looking 33, you may have a few more options there too.
Yeah, the refrigerator, they have that all refrigerator, all freezer. The problem is when you go to 33 is more of a dimension you want. Because when you go to a 32, when you go to replacing anything, you're stuck with whatever it is you got. You don't have options. Like most people right now, refrigerator dies at 36 inches. You've got tons of options. At 33, you've got some options. At 32, you've got much less, where it's Fisher-Paykel, Frigidaire, and you want to keep your options open. So you can get that 33-inch. At 32, it's Fisher-Paykel, and then that Frigidaire Electrolux thing that I'm not particularly a fan of.
Okay. Next one's from Gene. Lighting. Choosing new, more functional, including for cabinet interiors, which didn't have any before.
Cabinet interiors. Okay. It's funny. This takes me back. The most exciting thing for me 30 years ago was Siegel had this ambient thing where you basically put, this is before your time, where you put in wire, and then you could stick the the kind of lighting, the light bulbs on the wire. It was called ambiance. But now all you got to do is buy the tape, high output LED tape, and you can put that stuff anywhere. It's about this thin. The only problem with that is if you've got polished surfaces, you could see the diodes if you're really looking at it, like the little lighting bulbs. But I love that stuff, especially like, I'm looking at this cabinet here and I want to put some lights underneath it, and then you put it on a separate switch. You can leave it on as night lights, so you're not putting on the main light. If you have to get up in the middle of the night, you can get something much more subtle, so your eyes can be more accustomed to it. But I'm a big fan of that stuff. It's lighting tape, right? And here's a secret. You want the Kelvin temperature. I know that means the color of the light between 25 and 3000 degree Kelvin, right? So you get a much more natural light for your natural woods.
All right. Next one from Larry. Is it best to not put a stove or sink on the island?
For me, it's sink. I mentioned that during the presentation. I just think, and it's really, I hate putting my biases in here because you can do whatever you want. You just need to vent properly. If you vent properly, you can do either, right? And there is some, you could put your sink by your window and put your stovetop on your island, and then put just an overhead hood over that if you wanted to do that. Personally, I've always put sinks in my islands.
Yeah, no question. Just the venting is so difficult. I think when you've gone over this many times, but just so difficult to vent that properly. And and we've seen it, we've seen people try to do it, and it's always difficult. No matter all the best intentions in the world, it's always difficult, especially for a stove. Cooktops can be difficult on their own, but a full range is almost really impossible to kind of do properly in an island, for sure.
Here's a kind of a unique tip, right? If you want to make your kitchen unique and you go in with white and gray like everybody else does, what you do is make the hood, buy the components of the hood, right, and put a wood hood in, or do what this person did. I love this hood. Take a look at that hood, Fran. See how they tie? Well, I'm not sure if they actually tiled over a stainless hood, but you can do the same thing by just buying that as a hood and just buying the blower components that go inside of it. I think that's a great look, personally. It makes it a little bit more unique. Again, you can buy any number of stainless steel hoods if you want as well.
All right. From DA, how does the Culinarian gas range top compare with Blue Star gas range top?
Very similar. I mean, we sold Capital years ago, and I really haven't seen them, and I haven't seen them anywhere. I don't know if you have.
No, I don't come across them really ever. Yeah, but I remember when we sold them. Yeah.
Open burner 25,000 BTU. What Blue Star's done that Capital hasn't is they added a lot more colors, a lot more accessories, where you could choose 1,000 colors with Blue Star and 10 trim packages. If that's not enough, you can customize your own. And Blue Star's gone into refrigeration where Capital hasn't. Blue Star's gone into hoods where Capital really hasn't. And Blue Star's got the dual fuel and Capital hasn't. But if you're talking about straight cooktops, they both have 25,000 and 18,000 BTU burners. Very similar in terms of performance of those two units.
All right, let's go to Jane. Just simply finding an architect.
Here's two schools of thought, right? Is to go through those pictures, those really cool pictures you see that you like, and look at the architects, right? Or look at the great GCs. Like, I'll give you an idea. When I go on a bike trip, I look at where all the good bike companies go, and that's kind of where I go. So what you want to do is take the companies like KVC and ThoughtForms, if you're doing something really nice, and figure out who they're using as architects and just call those guys up. Again, it goes back to what I said originally is, architect is kind of a general word. I'd want the architect that's designing the kind of house that I want to build. I think you'd be better off doing that. But certainly find out if you've got a certain type of construction and you live in our area. Pat's going to be sending my email address. I'll be certainly happy to, answer whatever questions or hook you up with any kind of contract that you need. Outside of Boston, I'm really not that qualified because I don't know anybody. But inside Boston, I think I've got some good contacts that might help you. And I'm not connected with them at all, so.
All right, let's go to Eileen. Discuss gas versus induction cooktops.
Well, I think we got a blog post on that, but what gas can do is gas can give you a grill. Gas can give you a, I don't want to say griddle because you can do that with induction. Some people like seeing the open flame, and you can make tortillas over that open flame. I've been told in one of our webinars, and that's great. But induction will do everything better. It's faster. It's got a great simmer to it. Way easier to clean because the top doesn't get as hot as gas. A lot more energy efficient. Less emissions come out of induction than gas. I think induction's a better cooktop.
Yeah, just overall between the safety, the performance, just really it's starting. We're definitely seeing the trend kind of going towards induction a bit too. And I think for people, again, it's one of those things that maybe you're not used to it. Definitely you want to go in, try it, test out your pans, kind of see how it is. It's a different type of cooking because it is really faster and just compared to gas. But I think for most people, once they see induction, it really is a great way to cook.
Yeah, I think so too. And, you get the, I didn't mention griddle. I mean, you get the flex burners on a lot of these things where you can just put an oblong shape burn run. I watched a chef cook on induction and braised some beef, and the pan overset the lines, and everyone says you can't do that, and he just shrugged his shoulders and says, I'm doing it now, right? So it's a really good burner and a good piece of technology.
All right, let's go to Elwin. Best stackable washer and dryer, not an all-in-one.
I think if you're doing two, I like LG for reliability, and they've got a lot of good units. GE's got a lot of good units too. Samsung, if you want to walk that balance beam of, what happens after you need something fixed with Samsung, but they have some good units as well. We don't carry Electrolux, but those seem to work fine. But LG is by far probably the most popular due to the fact that it is the most reliable, and they've got good features, and it's shallow. I know you said you don't want the one piece, but the wash tower is certainly worth considering as well.
Yeah, for sure. With the controls right in the middle, just so easy to access there. And now even too, like with the GE and some of the others we're starting to see where now they're kind of synced with each other via Bluetooth, and the washer can actually control the dryer, so you really don't have to reach up. So definitely a lot of innovation coming in laundry, believe it or not, for sure. All right, so I think we have some time here for a few of the live Q&A questions. So let's start here. So this one's from James. Are paneled column freezers and fridges losing popularity? So kind of like separate paneled columns, fridge and freezer.
I don't think so. I think paneled is very popular. Maybe the question is because Thermador and SKS came out with 42 and 48 inch versions with the multiple drawers and all that other stuff. But I don't think panel is going away. I think it's a really interesting look. That's what I put in, to be honest. But I don't see it losing popularity at all. But really, what it comes down to is popular or not, right? This is a question that's better asked to yourself, because it's certainly never going to go out of style. It doesn't even look like anything. It's a cabinet, right? And that'll never go out of style. The question I would ask for someone is, do you like it? Right? That's the question you want to ask. We talk about kitchen triangles, zones of influence, all that other stuff, right? But really, it matters not in the macro of what other people think. It's how you use it, right? Mm-hmm. Or what you think of it, because it's never going to go out of style.
Yeah. I definitely think, definitely paneled, absolutely not. But I think we do maybe seeing a little bit of a trend go now that, like you mentioned, we're starting to see 42 and 48-inch French door bottom freezer refrigerators coming out more with brands like a Thermador, Sub-Zero now introducing those. You definitely see, I think, maybe a trend going to that style as opposed to maybe separate columns, but absolutely those paneled many, many times as well, for sure. All right, let's go to Ron. Ron says, I plan to replace all appliances, but I think I will need to mix manufacturers to get the features I want. Thoughts?
That's fine. I mean, it really depends on what you're looking for, but yeah, it's your kitchen. I think that's fine. That's what I did. With that said, if you're talking about stainless steel appliances and you're mixing, say, just out of Samsung and GE or GE LG, what I would do is I'd get pocket handles as much as I possibly could, because the one detail that changes, and it's the only detail these manufacturers seem to really focus on, is the handle. So you don't want to mix a KitchenAid handle and a Samsung handle, although you can. I mean, really, it's not gonna. It's just visually another element. But I think if you get a pocket handle or something that you put your hand in, which you can do in dishwashers and refrigeration, that's what I would do. Or panel all of it, and no one will ever know.
Yeah, absolutely. And we see this a lot where people mix and match different brands. And one thing to keep in mind, certainly, promotion wise, when you stick with one brand, of course they're trying to promote you to go with all that one brand, so you might lose out on a few promos. But at the same time, you look at the price difference on some of the brands that you're looking, at the end of the day, don't always just feel like you got to stick within that brand to hit a promo, because it may not be a huge difference at the end of the day to get what you really want anyways.
And if you're going to be in there and you're going to use your kitchen over a 10 to 20 year period, I mean, if you amortize it, it's really not all that much. And I think overall, your satisfaction on a daily basis is worth more than, $1,000 to $2,000 over the lifetime of your kitchen.
Definitely.
Or $3,000.
All right, this one from Terry. What is the most quiet vent hood motor?
They don't publish zone ratings, and I would say that probably all the effective vent motors you're going to hear. That simple. I mean, I have a 600 CFM at home. I hear it when I turn it on.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if you put it outside, because you're still going to hear the air rushing through the duct anyway. Doesn't matter if you put it in line, because you're going to hear the air rushing through the duct anyway. So I don't know of a quiet vent hood motor that's a powerful vent hood motor. If you want to buy something less powerful, you can have less noise.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't think there's really any significant difference between them. You want it to be effective. It's not something that's running all day long. You're really using it while it's cooking, and you want it to be effective more than anything else, for sure. All right, this one comes from Sulaiman. When advising a client on microwave placement during the renovation, what options would you recommend?
Well, whatever fits in the kitchen, because you can put a microwave anywhere, right? And it depends. I have a microwave that is way away from everything, because I really don't use a microwave anymore. But if I did, I'd want it central. I'd put it over my single oven and that's what I would do. But it really depends what your client does. If your client is microwaving a lot, centralize it. And you can do that in any ways. You can put it over a single oven. You could put in one of those drawer microwaves and put it right under the countertop. Or you can just get a small one and hang it from a cabinet if you need to. Mm-hmm. Or if they don't use it that much, they could put it in another room, It all depends on what your client how your client uses your kitchen is where you put your appliances, really, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's so many options now for microwaves. We certainly see those, like you said, the microwave drawers in an island and things like that. We see that a lot. It really depends. And, if you're doing the double oven and you want to do, like we talked about, a speed oven over a single oven instead of a full-size double oven, that's a spot as well. So a lot of options there. And like you said, it really depends on that person and how they're going to use that for sure. This question from Noah goes back to kind of a previous question I think we were answering, and says, what do you mean by integrated French door fridge?
That's a great question. Okay. There's regular depth refrigerators, then there's counter depth refrigerators. Okay. Excuse me. And I can't believe I went through the seminar without coughing, but what a counter depth is the actual body of the fridge is covered by the cabinet. Integrated, but the door sticks out on a counter depth. Integrated, nothing sticks out. So you won't be able to tell the difference between the cabinet and the refrigerator. And it looks like a cabinet, in other words, because it's flat. It's the 24-inch flat looking cabinet. So that's what we mean by integrated. It's shallower than counter depth, which the door sticks out. If you look at a Sub-Zero with the compressor on the top, the door is going to stick out a little bit. On an integrated, the door will not stick out.
All right, this one from Paul. Upcoming kitchen reno, and I don't want to eat out every night. Silly question, but do you recommend any induction burner to at least make eggs, etc.?
Why wouldn't you be able to make eggs with an induction burner? Not a silly question, but induction does everything all the other ones do, right? You just turn it on with your metal pot, right? You put your butter in, scramble your eggs before, add salt and pepper, put it on there, and then if you choose an omelet, you fold it over and put whatever else you want on it, or you just scramble them up. The whole idea of cooking by heat doesn't change with induction. It's just a different type of mechanism to make that heat.
Yeah, and I think sometimes too with induction, certainly some, there's no question, are way more powerful than others, similar to gas. But I think it's maybe even less of a thing when you're comparing like the BTUs on gas versus, the wattage on induction. To some degree, certainly, again, some are more powerful, but really all these induction burners, because they're so efficient and you're not wasting any of that heat like you do with some of the gas burners where they kind of go off to the side, they're all pretty powerful and they're all going to do a really good job of heating most foods. And certainly, again, some will be more powerful than others, but I'd say less of a variance there too when comparing maybe gas.
Just as a general rule, any induction burner, well, let me qualify that, but any main induction burner is going to be harder than any powerful professional range. We used to have a glass kitchen here, and we used to show a commercial walk against an induction burner back then, and the induction burner was still faster. And now they're more powerful. What is the induction SKS? 7,000 watts. It's like double. Most powerful induction burners are 3,700 watts. This one's 7,000 watts. I think Mueller is coming out with their own 7,000 watt. So yeah, these 25, 30,000 BTU gas
So
burners, a lot of that heat escapes to the side, right? So
Paul did have a follow-up. He said, I guess my real question is how best to prepare for not having a kitchen for 2 months. That could certainly be difficult.
I've been answered to that too, right? I moved to an apartment a few years ago that had like the Kenmore Elite 1990 range. So I bought an induction burner. Right now, it wasn't as fast because it was 120, but it worked great. Right? It was faster than the electric. It's certainly not going to be as fast as the built-ins that are at, that are 240, 30 amp. I mean, this is only a 120, less than 12 amp, but still work pretty good. That's what I would do. Is just get an induction burner. They're not expensive. Yeah.
I'll do the trick temporarily. Get an induction burner, have a little air fryer, plug it in, and you got a little mini kitchen for a few months.
You know what else is a good little thing that we're using? The G profiles get that smoker, right? And it's an inside smoker. Now people say, oh, your house is going to smell like whatever you cook. And that's the point, right? You want that barbecue-y odor in your house. But get it. Look at the profile smoker. It's really cool. We made wings in it. I actually just ordered one because my kid eats wings. She won't eat like food, but she'll have wings. So we're gonna make wings together, and you can make it as a smoker. It's really cool. They've got all these foods and a menu, and it's really easy. But that's what I do. I get an induction burner, a smoker, and then an air fryer, and you get yourself a little mini kitchen.
Awesome. All right, I think we got time for one more here. So this one's coming from Mary Ann, and she says, I have heard that it is not good to have a double wall oven that is one single unit versus two separate ones. And I'm guessing this maybe comes to maybe more of a repair question, if there's an issue with one versus both.
The most, people always talk about panels, and I always say, when was the last time your microwave went out, right? The computer panels, as long as they're good initially, are going to be good for a while. I haven't heard that a double oven is worse than two. I imagine that, you've got to replace that one unit just in case versus replacing two, a single oven. But that single oven that you're replacing is probably not going to be the same as the single oven you've got. So you may end up having to do it so they may look the same. I know that's kind of vanity, but I haven't heard that. It makes sense, though, I guess. I'm not a big double wall oven fan, and I don't have one because, my mom had a double oven when she moved out of her house. And actually, she had a Jenner stove and a single wall oven, which is kind of double. And she still had the factory packing in there after we left. But I'd rather see someone get like a single oven with steam or single oven with microwave and really change the way they cook. But, it's certainly your call. If you've got a big family, maybe two ovens work. But I haven't heard, I guess other than you got to replace two. But that's not something that I would certainly consider if I was buying one or the other.
Yeah, for sure. And that's exactly what I was going to say too. I think a lot of times, people get these double ovens, and like you said, you find yourself 90% of the time, you're always just using one oven anyway. So that is a chance to maybe do something to give you a little bit more flexibility, like a speed oven combination with the speed oven up top and a single oven, or the steam oven and a single oven, to be able to do some different things. And I think a lot of times what we tell people too is, they'll find that they're really using that steam or the speed oven most of the time too, and that other single oven when they have something large that they're cooking too. But I think that's absolutely a consideration for sure. And I think that's it for the questions today, Steve.
It's amazing where all these people are from. It's amazing where everybody's from. All right, thank you. We'll have another webinar in a few months, but I thought that was pretty good. A lot of good questions. If you have any more, we answer them on our YouTube channel and our blog. I answer about 20 a day. So that's about it.
Awesome. Thank you.